Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey from Longstill Distillery. Make your own luck, just like Tennessee football's fast paced Rattle and Snap offense with Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. All right. So, this rule change where the clock will not stop after a first down, starting this season, I believe. And it's NFL rules, essentially, as far as that goes. And it's interesting because we don't exactly know how it's going to affect Josh Heupel's offense because nobody in the NFL runs Josh Heupel's offense. There's like elements of it here and there, and offenses that run a little more spread and things like that, but nobody is doing what Josh Heupel does in the NFL, and so we're not exactly sure how it's going to affect. Like, a lot of people have had theories about this, where it's like, well, it could help Tennessee because it's to their advantage to have the clock just run, and you're gonna score close to the same amount of points, but the clock will run and it'll run quicker. And also for the defense, maybe theoretically you'll run less plays, so your defense won't be as tired. But also, is it that simple? When you look at it, Zach, how do you think this will affect Hype's offense?
Yeah, I don't think this is a rule that's like geared towards slowing offenses down or slowing tempo down. I think it's
No.
just to shorten the games, remove some plays from the games, like you mentioned. That's the biggest thing. I don't think it'll really impact Heupel's offense at all, and I don't think Josh Heupel feels that way either. Heupel's smart enough to know that, like, he's smart enough to know what he doesn't know. So he doesn't know 100% how it will look until they go out there and actually play games or simulate it in practices. And he actually talked about this earlier this month at a Big Orange Caravan stop. I'm not sure where he was at. He was in Chattanooga, one of the last stops. He said it's not going to change how the game is played for any offense, any style. When the ball is set, it will be ready. It shortens the game in some respects. I guess we'll see more on the back end what type of changes it actually has. He was also asked, specifically about up-tempo offenses, if it would impact it. He said, again, it just shortens the game. We'll see how much of an effect that actually has on number of possessions per game, that type of thing. So it seems like Heupel is just assuming, hey, it's a few less maybe snaps that Tennessee will have during the course of a game. And Tennessee's they run a lot of plays because of how fast their offense runs, but running as many plays as possible isn't really their goal. It's scoring as fast as possible, keeping that tempo up, tiring defenses out, keeping them guessing, keeping them on their toes. That's the point of the tempo. It's not so they can run 90 plays a game. If it's 90 or 80, I don't think Heupel really cares as long as they're getting the ball in the end zone. That's the biggest thing.
Few things go better with a Tennessee sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And actually, me and Jonathan Crompton had a drink of whiskey during the post-game show of every football win this past season. And more specifically, we had Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. You can see it right there behind me. Log Still Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey, named after a long-forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version of Rattle and Snap whiskey. And actually, this one behind me is the 4-year version right here. It's perfect for making your favorite whiskey cocktails or just drinking neat. It's really great stuff. And I mean, you can see it there. The bottle looks great too. You can find Rattle and Snap right now in stores across Tennessee. And Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. So run, don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap whiskey. And follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. That is Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. How will it change Josh Heupel's offense? It won't. He's going to run what he's going to run, and he was always going to do that, really, no matter, unless they change the rules where he literally cannot run it anymore within the
Which is
bounds
kind
of
of
the
what
rules.
Saban had kind of floated out there. It's like, hey, why don't you make it to where they can't snap the ball until there's like 25 seconds left on the play clock? And it's like, well, why even have a play clock if that's if you're going to do that?
Unless it's that. Josh Heupel's going to do what Josh Heupel does, period. And the things that it will affect will be out of his control. The total number of plays, things like that. And I just see it kind of
timeout strategies it could affect a little.
Yes, late in game, 2-minute strategies.
Which I think it does stop under
timeouts.
2 minutes. It does stop under 2 minutes, right?
That's right.
I believe that's the case. So
yep.
Even then, it's not dire. I mean, you're not usually trying to hurry up and snap the ball while the clock is stopped with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So it's just not gonna be over the top, and it works on both sides. Like I kind of said, like, yeah, it may cut off some plays for Tennessee overall, but it's also going to cut off some plays for your defense. And maybe your defense isn't as tired as they would be overall anyway. And I just don't think it's going to change that much.
The only the only impact I see it having, and this is league wide, this isn't specific to Tennessee at all, is if you're down by 14 points with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, then you're losing those kind of mini timeouts where they're stopping the clock to set the ball. And with Heupel's offense, as fast as they go, they can get a playoff, and it's almost like they've had a timeout in the sense that it stopped the clock, because they're, as soon as the ball's set, they're pretty much snapping it right then as soon as the clock restarts. So if you're trying to make a comeback late in the game, it could get a little tricky. Perhaps you'll have a little bit less time to work with there, but that's going to be, everybody's going to be facing that.
It really is just going to kind of be an experiment of sorts. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. So I honestly, I'm not, I don't want to say I'm nervous about it. I'm just kind of interested to see if any kind of game management changes, things like that. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Jones says out of bounds still stops the clock, right? Yeah.
There was somebody. Yeah, somebody did float at one point that the clock would keep going on incompletions except under 2 minutes, and that just kind of goes against the spirit of the game. And that's not a rule that was passed. I don't even think it was seriously entertained, but I think it was kind of thrown out there by maybe a coach or an athletic director, just probably trying to stir the pot. Who knows?
I mean, that would just be a running clock. Like that's you would take away so much strategy there.
If you want to speed the game up, I've always thought that they should do away with this clock stopping up to first downs. It just seems so archaic at this point, especially as conditioned. And these athletes are almost pro ready sometimes when they get to high school, just about with the way that youth sports are these days and the way they specialize. But I always thought that was a good idea. Shorten the half times. I mean, that would cut 12 minutes out of the game immediately if you went down to NFL half times. And yeah, I know bands like to go out there and do the halftime shows, but that lengthens the game a bit. Speed up the replays. For whatever reason, college replays seem like they take forever. And whatever the challenge system is, can we quit pretending like it is? There is a challenge system, because if you want it looked at, it will get looked at. We've kind of learned that over the last few years, and it seems like there's no limits on that. So, and then Mr. Jones mentioned shortening commercials. I'm not sure, what they can do with that. Yeah, there's money involved there. That's probably the last thing that would get touched. But there are some different ways they can shorten games, and yeah, I don't know how much this will shorten games. Not stopping the clock on first downs. I mean, maybe 5 minutes you might save, if that. It's not going to be a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not going to be like it's not going to be like the NFL, where it's generally speaking, a pretty tight 3 hours. It's just not. It's not going to happen. College ball, it just got too much going on.
It would be interesting. Baseball made a huge change this year with the pitch clock, and it has significantly shortened games, and it's made baseball a lot more watchable. And even for me, somebody that loves baseball, I'd sit there and watch a 4-hour game and be okay with it. It's made it a lot more watchable, I feel like. So maybe it'll make the sport a little bit better.
Absolutely.